Well, hello everyone. Thank you all for joining Mother Theresa and grandstanding with Mother Theresa on a Tuesday night. I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. I do not take it for granted that you are here. And so the ones that are already on, I want to thank you. I see my mom is on. I'm not sure if that's Sister Audra. I think that's you that's on as well. But thank you all for tuning aside or turning aside a little bit of your Tuesday evening to grandstand with Mother Theresa. So what are we going to talk about today? I used to go, when I first come on, I would give this spiel about, that this is not therapy. It's not anything as related to what I do on my 9 to 5, but it's simply a way and an opportunity for me to come on and to just chat, to just kind of have a little bit of conversation. And along the way, offer a little bit of word, offer a little bit of encouragement, and also just kind of share some things that's happening not only in my life, but also in some of the lives of the people that I am acquainted with. And then also, one of the things that I have been doing is I have been sharing different chapters of the book Conversations from a Mother's Heart, which is one of my journals that I have published recently. You can get them at Amazon. But tonight, what I wanted to share with you all, I talk a lot about this book because this is typically what I come from. I usually will share a topic out of here. But tonight, I'm going to share with you some information about my other journal, which is Tales from the Clothesline. And I have to tell you all about Tales from the Clothesline. If you haven't already picked it up, you need to get it. It's at Amazon also. And this is a notebook, but I want to share with you all a little bit. Hey, Sister Andrea, I wanted to share with you all a little bit about this notebook and how it came into being. Well, for most of you all that listen to me, that often tune in, you all know that I talk about my family a lot. And that's just what I do. I talk about my family. I talk about a lot of things that have happened in my childhood. Hello there, Cousin Rhonda, and everybody that's on here. I talk about different things that I know something about. And so I know a lot about my family. I know a lot about the things that happen in my childhood, the things that have happened, happening in my life right now. And so what better person or what better stories to share with you than my own personal stories? When I first got started with conversations from a mother's heart, then, some of those things is just information or things that I wanted to share as a mother, that I wanted to have conversations not only for my children, but I thought that it would also give an opportunity for the person who's reading or the person who's journaling to also have some reflections on the things that are in their life, and also think about the things that we're grateful for. So as we are, doing those things and journaling, it tends to make you stop and think about a lot of different things. For some, it's very therapeutic. And for some, it's just a way of gathering their thoughts and how to organize their day and how to kind of get themselves up and going. But I love to read and I love to write. And journaling is a thing that I don't do as much. Hey, Sister Deborah. I don't do as much as I should, but I used to journal almost every day. And I would go back and I would find different things that I have written, and I would go back and I would look at how the things that have happened. So again, I would journal, then go back and I would read some of the things. And a lot of times I was writing in my journal or writing about the prayers, the things that I was praying about and hoping to have some resolve. And then other things, it was just thoughts. It was just ideas. It was just kind of what was going on in my brain. And so, hey, Melinda, and I think I have some more. If I didn't call your name, it flew by so quick that I couldn't see you. Hey, Eb, thank you all for joining us on tonight. But getting back to what I was sharing with you all about how this book came into play. For those of you all who listened to me a couple of weeks ago, it may have been a month or so ago, I talk a lot about, hey, Scent, I talk a lot about my grandparents. And you know what? I realize that not everyone has or experienced grandparents the way that I experienced my grandparents and my grandmother and my grandfather. And so, and like I said, I have nothing but good things to say. Was it all good? No, but most of it that I choose to remember absolutely was. But this book came into play because I remembered when we would go to fellowship sometimes and we would see my grandmother hanging those clothes out on the clothesline. And she would wash those clothes in like a number 10 can, a number 10 tub. And you could know those big old round steel galvanized tubs. Some people still use those things for different things. Oh, Lee is listening. Oh, okay. Hey, Lee. Hello, Sister Lorraine. So some people still use those big tubs. Sometimes people use them to plant like a flower garden or flower beds or different things like that in there. And then some people still use them as, as a means of washing, themselves or different things like that. But it's mostly like a novelty item at this point. A lot of people don't use them in the way that they used them back during my grandmother's time. But my grandmother used that big number 10 wash tub as her one of the ways that she would wash her clothes. And so, and not only did she have that, I think she probably had some other things. My mom and Rhonda is on here, and my sister Sin. If you all remember some of the things that Big Mama used to do her laundry, and y'all tell me. But and of course she had the rub board, and she would get those clothes, and of course she would do whatever she needed to do to get those clothes clean for her family. But not only was she doing the laundry, but there was conversations that were had. Hello, Sister Pam. There were conversations that were had at the clothesline. And so what I thought about as I was writing this notebook, I thought about some of the terminology that you might hear while you're at the clothesline. And some of the things that I would say that Big Mama, some of the conversations that she would have, it would be about the different things that that was going on in her life. She may ask us about school. She may ask us how things were going in our with our family, just asking things about us. And that was our conversation, our way of having that relationship or building a relationship with our grandmother. Now, a lot of people probably say, oh, well, you all were just talking. Well, we were just talking, but as an adult, I realized the value of those conversations. So what I did as I was creating this journal, I went through and I thought about some of the things that pertains to a clothesline and also washing clothes. So in here, I talk about, or I have a heading. And what I do is I just have different headings that where you can, and the rest of the pages are blank. So you can just kind of fill it in with what you want. But one of the pages or two of the pages is called Fresh White Linen. And guess what? When Big Mama was hanging those clothes out, and for some of you all that are on here, if you had family members who did the laundry outside, or if you were the person that was doing the laundry or hanging the laundry on the clothesline, you wanted that linen to be fresh and white and clean. And so if it was not fresh, white, and clean, then you probably needed to start over. And then another page that I have is called wooden clothespins. And so in one of the things with my journal, if you purchase my journal from me, I give you a wooden clothespin. It comes with the journal. And you can actually see that at the bottom of the page 2 of my book, it's a wooden clothespin. Now, how wonderful is that to have a wooden clothespin? For some of you all, some of the younger generation, I may show you this and you may ask, what in the world is that? But for us older, we know exactly what that is. So, you know, you think about the wooden clothespins. What were the wooden clothespins for? And if your grandmother was like mine, she probably had an old sack or something where she kept all of those wooden clothespins in those sacks. And we had to make sure that we got them all off, because guess what? That was the way to keep those clothes hanging on that clothesline. And as we were doing the conversations, I have another set of topic or heading called airing your dirty laundry. Now, let me just tell you, at the clothesline, you all, it wasn't always good conversations. That may have been a time to gather around that clothesline and talk about the things that's happening in the neighborhood, talk about the neighbors, talk about a whole lot of stuff. You know, I can't remember a time when Bigmama Mike would ask, you know, how is your mom treating you, or is everything going okay? I don't remember that, but I do recall sometimes maybe hearing some conversations, and you may have too, of hearing conversations that may not have necessarily been conversations that were so pleasant, because they were airing the dirty laundry. She may have been talking about some things that had been happening in fellowship. Okay. Another topic that I have is called breeches and bras, because guess what? That's what was hanging on the clothesline. You had breeches, and you may have had some bras that was hanging on the clothesline. Of course, we know that there were some sun-dried sheets that were hanging on the clothesline. And of course, we're back to community news. Now, let me just tell you all, now we do community news a little bit differently these days. We don't necessarily stand around the clothesline and talk about the community news. Guess where we talk about community news? We do it on social media. We have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have all of those types of social media platforms that we talk about not just the community news, but we talk about worldwide news, international news. And sometimes when you're talking about the community news and also other things, there may be some gossiping and some lying going on. So not saying that Bigmama was gossiping and lying, but I can't tell you, you know, I can just only tell you about what was happening in fellowship. Now, for those of you all who are watching, if you may have been around somebody, there may have been some gossiping and some lying going on around that clothesline. And most of the time, you all, we hung out those clothes on sunny days. We were looking for some sunny days, because guess what? We could not hang those clothes out on the clothesline if it was not a sunny day. And then we had to also watch out for the strong winds. You know, these are, again, things that that may happen around the clothesline. So you have to think about those strong winds. And I can equate that to sometimes when different things is happening, or you're having conversation with somebody and it may be a little bit much for you. I think that we can equate that to strong winds. Sometimes we have to move around because those winds may be a little bit too strong for us to bear. And then also, now, my grandmother did this. She did gardening and she did canning. And I can remember that there was a room in their house that her canning room. And I can remember a time going into that canning rooms, which we didn't go in there very often. But we would go into that room, and it was a room that was lined with shelves all around the room. Rhonda, do you remember that, going into that room? But it would be a room that it would have shelves all around the room, and it would have different things in there. It may have been in jars, or it may have been in those cans, but those were things that came from, hey Linda, those were things that came from Bigmama and Big Daddy's garden. And so they would have to put that stuff, they would have to can those things in order for them to always have food for their family. Because guess what? Bigmama and Big Daddy had 15 children, so they had to make sure that they always had some food. And then, of course, you have an area where it is. Oh, Rhonda said no. Okay, you don't remember that. Okay, now Rhonda, I'm 60, so I'm older than you, but I can remember that room. My mom is on here, so maybe she remembers. Joshua Moore, hey, how are you doing? And then another thing, I remember I talked about the breeches and the bras hanging on the clothesline. We can have some unmentionables and underwear that's hanging on the clothesline. Again, these are just things that you might find along the clothesline, or this may be conversations that you may have on the clothesline. And then, of course, Saturday chores. So around the clothesline, you know, there may have been conversations about what was going to be needed to be done on that Saturday. You know, a long time ago, back in my grandmother's time, there were certain things that were done throughout the course of the week, and then there were other things that were only done on the weekends. And so, and I can remember one of those things that was done on the weekend. Of course, you know, we did a lot of our cleaning and different things like that. But guess what? Back in the day at my grandmother's house, which she was their home for a long time, there was not running water. And I remember I shared with you all that they had a well. And so when they would draw that water from the well, hey, Kinda, hey, Teddy, they would draw that water from the well, and that water was used for drinking. It was used for the washing of clothes. It was used for taking a bath. And that Saturday, when I said there were certain things that was done on a Saturday, guess what? That Saturday night bath was one of those things, okay? Also, laundry baskets. That's another title in here. And then, of course, we have the nosy neighbors. So at the clothesline, sometimes you may talk about your neighbors. And when I say nosy neighbors, also growing up or being at my grandparents', they had what we called a party line. So some of you young folks, y'all don't know what in the world I'm talking about, but they had what was called a party line. And that meant that the phone would ring. There was a very distinctive ring for Bigmama's house. And then there was another distinctive ring for like the neighbors, the different ones that lived, I guess, in that area. But it was all, there was just a ring, okay? And so you had to know your ring. And when it was your ring, you would pick up the phone. Well, guess what? If you picked up the phone and it was not your ring, you could hear the neighbors talking. And I can remember so many times picking up that phone and just listening to the different people talking. And of course, you had to be really, really quiet if you didn't want them to know that you were listening to them. And a lot of times you would hear, hello, Sylvia. A lot of times you would hear somebody out the other line, a neighbor say, hey, is somebody on the line? Is somebody on the line? And then my grandmother would say, get off of that phone. That's not for us. But nosy neighbors, yes, absolutely. Lye soap and bluing. That was a staple when you were doing the laundry, okay? So you had to have that lye soap and you had to have that bluing. Remember I said that you wanted to make sure that those clothes were absolutely clean. You wanted to make sure that they were clean and white. And the bluing is what I understand that you put into the rinse water to make sure that those clothes were nice and white. Now, it's amazing to think that you would put something blue in it, and I guess it was a blue liquid, and it would make the clothes white. I'm not a chemist. I don't know anything. Sister Andrea said yes. Okay, so I'm right. So, yeah, that's what I understood is that, you know, you wash those clothes with that lye soap, and then you use that bluing in the rinse water in order to make those clothes really white and clean. And then, of course, there's some pages on here that says flapping in the breeze, because that's what those clothes did. They were just flapping in that breeze. It was that good old country fresh air that got those clothes really, really nice and fresh and everything. And of course, backyard clothesline. And then I have a little topic or a little area here called lessons learned at the clothesline. And you all, this is where I talk about, or this is what I was sharing earlier, is that a lot of times, yes, your grandmother and great-grandmother used it too. All right, yes. Hello, Felicia. When I think about it now, as an adult, I didn't realize the lessons and the things that Bigmama was teaching me. I didn't even think about it because I was a child. I didn't think about some of the conversations that we were having, and also some of the things that I was experiencing as life lessons. But the older you get, you begin to look back and reflect on some of those conversations and some of those things that happened long time ago. And it's like, that was a life lesson. And of course, Big Mama, in her wisdom, she wasn't necessarily thinking, okay, I'm teaching, this is a teachable moment for my grandchildren. She was just trying to do her chores. She was just trying to do the things that she needed to do to take care of her family. But in the meantime, she was also teaching valuable lessons. And one of the lessons that I can think about is that when you think about washing your clothes and doing your laundry, most of us probably are blessed that we are able to go into another room in our house and actually load the washing machine, or the dryer. Thank God for my husband. He does that, and I appreciate him for that. But for some, like my grandmother, that was not her story. At the beginning, that was not her story. So we are so blessed, you all. We've come so very far from where a lot of us, or maybe our grandparents, started. And so we should be thankful and grateful for the blessings that God has bestowed upon us in our lifetimes. And just looking back from when, as a little girl, and my grandmother, doing the laundry, that was hard work. That was backbreaking work. But yet she did it. And she did it probably knowing that if she didn't do it, it was not going to get done. Yes, she had other children, lots of children that could have helped her. But I can recall, again, seeing my grandmother do this type of work. I can't ever recall, but of course, as a teenager and also as a young girl, I can't recall a time that I would see someone out there helping my grandmother unless it was some of her grandchildren. Not saying that her children didn't do it, because they probably did that when they were growing up. But of course, now they were adults with their own families. And so when we would go out there on the weekends, Big Mama still had her chores that she had to do. And so she was taking care of that by doing that laundry. So one of the things, as I'm wrapping up, and again, I just wanted to share with you all. She said, yes, I remember the shelf being the size of the whole room from the floor to the top of the room. Mama is talking about, and I'm going to go back to one of these that I just skipped over, homemade remedies and canning and gardening. Hey, Amanda, my mom is sharing with us. I remember I shared with you all that my grandmother had a canning room. And I can recall that canning room exactly like what my mom just said. It was just shelves upon shelves upon shelves upon shelves from the top all the way to the floor. And that room was filled with food, with the things that had came out of my grandparents' garden. And they would put all of that stuff up for the winter and for just throughout the course of, their day-to-day life, because that's how they did it back then. I don't recall when I was much younger that there was a refrigerator, and it could have very well have been. I just maybe don't recall it. But so that's how they preserved their food. That's how they made sure that they had foods that were there for their family. And again, what I was stating is that that was backbreaking work. That was hard work. But my grandmother did that. And so when I was writing this book, that's what I was thinking about, or this journal or a notebook, how, some people may want to call it a notebook. But when I was putting together this notebook, that's what I was thinking about. I was thinking about all the memories that I had of my grandmother at that clothesline, as she was hanging those clothes up and as she was doing the things that she was doing for her family. And I just thought about different terminology that kind of went along with the clothesline and doing the laundry. And so when I put them in here, as a notebook. And if you haven't picked up this notebook, please go to Amazon and pick it up. I think it would be a great keepsake, not only for you, but for, and it would definitely help me out, but it would be a great keepsake and something for you to kind of look back and think about if you ever had, a grandmother or a mother or great grandmother, as Sister Andrea said, that did hung clothes on the clothesline, maybe this was kind of sparked some of your memories of the things that happen around the clothesline. And again, like I said, one of the things that we have to remember, that there were life lessons being taught around that clothesline. And as adults, when we think about the things that we encounter every day, I am so very grateful to have had come from a family of such strong women and men who led the way, and they made sure that we knew right from wrong, and they instilled the right things in us. And even if those lessons were learned at the clothesline, they were still learned. And so I am so very grateful for that. And again, when you think about the clothesline, now that was way, way, way long time ago. But what are the life lessons and the tales that we're learning now? It may not be from around the clothesline, but it could be tales that we're learning from our job. It could be tales that we're learning as we're sitting in the beauty shop. It could be tales that we're learning while we're sitting at some of the sporting events with our children. It could be tales that we're hearing while we're just out and about, while we're, people watching as you're shopping in the mall and you're just listening, you're just taking all that stuff in. What are the tales that you are learning in this life? And then how will you allow those things to affect you? How will you allow those things to affect you in a positive manner? And then these are things that you can write about, you can journal about. And, these could be things that you decide that, hey, I want to, venture into writing, creating a journal. You may want to create a journal about the different things that you've learned or you've experienced. And I would say if that is what's on your mind, go for it. Hello, Sandra. How are you doing? Hey, Sandra. Sandra lives in the Nacogdoches area. And Sandra, we've been talking about country life and growing up in fellowship with my grandmother and having a clothesline and the different tales that we learned, that I learned from my grandmother around that clothesline. But listen, you all, I always like to just share how grateful that I am that you have joined in with me. I do not take it for granted. I always enjoy spending a little bit of time with you all on a Tuesday evening. I don't like to keep you too long because most of you, like me, you're busy. But I always want to say that I really, really appreciate you all joining in with me. And for those that came in late, go back and listen to the rest of the segment of the live, and then share it. If you're not a if you're not a subscriber, I'm going to ask you to like and subscribe, not only here but also on YouTube. You all, I really enjoy doing this, and so thank you all so very much for joining me as I grandstand. And as I leave on tonight, I want to just share, of course, a little bit of my music, my theme music from my grandson. And thank you all for joining me on tonight. You all have a wonderful evening. Thank you so very much for joining us on tonight for one more episode of Grandstanding with Mother Theresa. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you all have a blessed night. Bye-bye, everybody.